Hey leaders, welcome to the People Power Project podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Carey, CEO of Morgan Carey Consulting Solutions, Chief People Developer, and advocate for building better workplaces. This podcast is all about empowering the leader in you, whether you're an individual contributor, a manager, or a business owner, to build better, safer, and more enjoyable work environments. Together, we'll reimagine leadership by promoting accountability, supporting healing, and exploring ways to foster growth for the busy business leader. I'm so excited today because joining me is a very special guest, a powerhouse in the world of leadership and organizational development. Dr. Erica Anthony is an associate professor of management and the chair of the Department of Business Administration at Morgan State University. With an impressive career spanning telecommunications at Sprint, systems engineering at Honeywell, and academic leadership, she has become a respected voice in the field of organizational behavior and human resources. She has a PhD in organizational behavior, human resources from Purdue University, an MBA from the University of Illinois, and the bachelor's in electrical engineering from the Illinois Institute of Technology. She's also the CEO and founder of Lyceum for Innovative Leadership, LLC, an organization dedicated to empowering women entrepreneurs and corporate leaders to reach their full potential. As a certified personal and executive coach, Dr. Anthony has a passion for helping leaders break through barriers and thrive in their careers. I'm really thrilled to share this conversation with you today because Dr. Anthony's journey is a wonderful example of what it means to lead with purpose, pursue your excellence, and create meaningful impact. So together, we're going to be diving into the connection between emotional healing and effective leadership, a topic that aligns really beautifully to what we do here at the People Power Project podcast, the work we do in helping leaders develop confidence, clarity, and influence. So welcome to the show, Dr. Erica Anthony. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this, so I'm excited to sit down and chat with you for a little while.
Excellent. I'm really excited to do today too. Today we are talking about healing and how it improves leadership. And I wanted to talk about this because when we heal, we lead differently. We stop with the micromanaging, we stop shrinking to make others feel comfortable, and we just really get into a space where we can thrive as leaders. And we stop leading from a place of survival. A healed leader, I really think, is a better leader. We become the leaders of our communities and the leaders that our teams really, really need. And that is the foundation of what I call Black Girl Leadership, which is a movement of the People Power Project podcast and Morgan Carey Consulting Solutions. So Dr. Anthony, I'm really interested to hear about your passion for doing the kind of work that you do. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, what we're going to talk about today, how did you come to doing coaching?
Oh, well, I tell people this is kind of like my third-ish career, right? You've shared some of my background with everyone.
Yeah.
And so, it definitely has been a journey, but it's been a good journey. Started off, wanted to be an engineer. And although I have a degree in electrical engineering, I realized that I really like to see how things just culminate and come together. And so that is the reason why I decided to go into systems engineering and learned a lot during that time span. And then I realized while I was, in my engineering role that I really love working with people and engaging with others and bringing a team together. And that is when I decided, okay, now it's time for me to leave this job. And people thought I was crazy. I'm going to leave my full-time job to pursue my MBA.
Yeah.
And learned a lot. So, as you know, I went into telecommunications and I realized, oh my gosh, I love, love, love business. But the aspect of business that I really loved was the human capital aspect of business. So that is what, inspired me to say, I'm going to leave my job again and go and get a PhD. And that time people were like, you are crazy. You have this electrical engineering degree from a great school. You have this MBA from a great school and you're going to leave it all and, go back to school again. But I'm glad I did that because I think that's when I really had a lot of self-discovery. That's when I realized the importance of coaching and helping others. I had an advisor who had his own business and I would just really watch him and not only the coaching, but the training and development piece. And I realized this is really my purpose and what I want to do. So, finished my doctoral studies, obtained a job here at Morgan and been here ever since. And I really had one vision of what my academic life was going to look like. I thought, hey, I'll have my consulting or coaching business on the side, as well as pursue my academic, research and focus and studies. I don't want to say studies, but essentially you're always a lifelong learner when you're in this field. But then I got tapped on the shoulder for administration, and I embraced it. And it's a blessing and a curse, however you want to look at it. And so, been a department chair for about 7 years now. Come June 30th, it will be 7 years. I didn't think I was going to last seven, but
Look at you.
I've learned. What's that?
I said, well, look at you.
I know. And so I've learned a lot about myself in the process.
Mhm.
Areas of strengths, areas that I need to, focus on a little bit further. I have such a large department. I have 5 disciplines under my umbrella. And so it's definitely challenging on any given day. So so that's how I got here.
Yeah.
That's how I got here. So let me pause for a second. That's how I got here.
Wonderful. So, not too long ago, I did a solo episode talking about leading while wounded. So, I wanted to hear a little bit more about your journey because I often wonder like how people get to where they are, what have they learned, and what kind of things can they bring to this kind of conversation, right? And so I'm sure along the way you've had experience and connections with people where you might have been like, I really don't know where this style of leadership is coming from or how we got here. So, what does leading while wounded mean to you?
Well, it makes me think about where I'm at right now in my current chapter of life. And I call it leading while grieving.
Mm,
So, anyone who knows me knows that my grandmother raised me. So, I didn't grow up in an affluent, background or home. My grandmother raised me, and my mother had me at a very young age. So, my grandmother raised me, and she just taught me some great lifelong values and beliefs that are still rooted in me today. And so, she passed away January 2022.
mhm.
And that was hard, but she lived such a good life, right?
Yeah.
That's a blessing to say that you're approaching 90 and then you have this transition to happen and you have so many people, your family and loved ones there to take care of you and be there to support you. So, I'm still, dealing with that, but 2023 is when it really hit me with the most challenges because my mother had been ill and she passed away January of 2023. My father passed away February of 2023. My godmother passed away March of 2023. So that first quarter of 2023, it just really turned my world upside down. And it was then that I realized I had so much grief, and then coupled with a very stressful job, I didn't know how I was going to manage on a day to day. Like I felt like I was going to explode.
Mm,
And so, what I did know, because I do believe in the importance of emotional intelligence, I do believe in the importance of being really aware of who I am at any given moment. So, when I wake up in the morning, I do a self check. How am I feeling? Am I, if I'm a bit discombobulated, how so did I wake up on the wrong side of the bed? How so what's going on? And so I would just wake up and I literally just could not put on clothes to go
mm,
into work. And I am crying. And the best that I could do is possibly, lay on the couch and kind of work from my cell phone. If there were things that I can answer with 2 thumbs, it happened. Otherwise, I would forward on to my team to kind of address on my behalf. Otherwise, it just had to wait. And it was there that I feel like I learned a lot about myself because I'm going through a lot, but that did not give me an excuse to lash out on others.
mm,
And so I had to ask myself some questions of, I know how I'm feeling, but what is it that I can do to fix this? And I decided to go to counseling because I knew I needed to reconcile my emotions. I knew that I needed to have some tools on how to deal with my grief. As Black women, we're taught to be strong.
mm,
That's it. I never will forget upon hearing about what I was experiencing with the deaths in my family. My boss at the time did not ask the question of, What is it that I can do to help you? I'm so sorry to hear about this. What is it that I can do to assist you while you're going through everything? Instead, I was told to be strong. And I really didn't feel like I had an outlet to turn to in terms of who can help me. And so I really did. I had to go through counseling, but it made me more so aware of how I think, as Black women, how we're viewed, the expectations of us. I think society view us as naturally strong creatures anyway, for which we are. But we also have the moments where we can get overwhelmed, when we can experience burnout, and we can experience all these different emotions. And so we have to make sure that although we're feeling this way, we still have to handle these feelings, what I term as being in a positive manner, right?
Yeah.
So I never wanted to lash out at anyone. I felt like no one was deserving of how I was feeling, with these, what I consider these overwhelming and negative emotions. So I went through counseling.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I know for sure is that how you feel and your energy is contagious, and it's a spillover into everyone else in your whole environment. So if I'm feeling anxious, if I'm feeling angry, if I'm feeling negative, that is going to spill over to everyone else. And people will, always remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And I did not want that to be a lasting impression of me as a person, as well as of me as a leader.
Yeah, thank you for sharing it. First, I want to say I'm so sorry for all of those losses. That had to be like overwhelming at the time, like you described. I can only imagine. I mean, I lost my father in March 2024, and I've lost both my grandparents over, both the grandparents I grew up with. Well, all three of them really over time. And some of this happened when I
Mm-hmm.
was younger. And you process grief differently as a
Yes.
child than you do as an adult. Like you said, that has
Yes.
to continue to keep going and continue to show up at work, especially in the leadership space. And I think it's very important that you mentioned that. So thank you for talking about how you still have to show up for your team, and you can't lash out at others, understanding that. But I love what you just said about Black women, that we are always expected to just be strong. And you even
Mm-hmm.
have an example of when you were kind of, you were viewed as like, just be strong. And there was never even a question of what can I do for you? How are you doing?
Yeah.
What do you need from me? Do you think these kinds of things, these are the things that hold Black women back in regard to seeking emotional healing?
I think so. And I even saw that within myself, because during the time of going through this grief, I was dealing with some serious challenges at work, and I wasn't protected. So, serious challenges where I had people who were just being extremely contentious and adversarial,
Yeah.
and no one said, you need to stop because this behavior is unacceptable, and it would not be tolerated.
Yeah.
Instead, it was allowed to occur, and on top of still dealing with grief and
Yeah.
still trying to manage the day-to-day operations of my work role, that I found that I felt so defeated and deflated in terms of even who I am as a leader during that time. So
Yeah.
I became a bit withdrawn. I stayed in my little huddle. This is my immediate area of what I need to work on. And I removed myself from everyone else.
Yeah.
And that's not who I am, and that's not how I should have been feeling and responding. Like I shouldn't, have this. I should have been supported is what I'm getting at. And so I think when, as Black women, we can do so many wonderful things, but I think, when you're encountering those sort of challenges, you do find that you're allowing that to dim your light.
Yeah. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's so interesting that you said that. I actually had someone ask me yesterday, Morgan, are you feeling okay because your light isn't the same today? She's
Mm-hmm.
like, the past couple of days, your light hasn't been the same. And that made me think of that actually when you said like leadership is contagious, or however you're showing up as a
Mm-hmm.
leader is contagious. And I was thinking, man, I hope my dimmed light didn't make the environment poor for the other people. So, we're always a work in progress, and trying to make sure we're showing up the way that we should be showing up. And as a minority in my working space, it can be actually overwhelming sometimes just to even
Mm-hmm.
have a conversation. And sometimes there was a point when I didn't speak up much at all, kind of like what you just described, being in your little box and just kind of withdrawing because you almost expect to get whatever treatment you're trying to move yourself away from. So what you do is you adapt. What people do is adapt. I have been in a space where I'm afraid of the judgment, and so if you're not feeling heard, you kind of go into that shell, feeling uncomfortable in these two major areas that you talked about, personal and professional, can just be so overwhelming, and we find ourselves just pushing through it. But sometimes we don't notice that we're pushing through. We don't notice.
Yeah.
We're just, it's
Yeah.
almost like an internal thing. We know that we have to do it. It almost becomes like second nature to push
Yeah.
through. How
Yes.
do you think leaders can become more aware, like self-aware of the fact that, hey, I am pushing through in this moment, I'm leading from a place of survival? How can they become aware? Because you can't fix something that you're not aware of.
And that's true. And so, I mean, I'm a big proponent of counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And even before the counseling, I've always been a big proponent and supporter of emotional intelligence. Like, I've taken the time to, read books about it. I've done research in that area. And so for me, that self awareness is key. And not only, because when we talk about some key components, right? Because there's so many when we talk about emotional intelligence, self awareness, other awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and how we regulate our emotions.
Yeah.
And so, if we don't understand who we are, we cannot truly understand our impact on others. Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people respond to us simply because of the fact of there may be some things that we've done to help trigger that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we have to make sure that we are aware that our emotions are contagious. And what I'm a firm believer when we talk about emotional regulating your emotions, I always give the example to people. You go to a restaurant and the server is less than friendly. And she's less than friendly because either her child or spouse or family member or something like that have irritated with her and it has carried on during the day. And what you would say is whatever she experienced shouldn't have anything to do with me, and I shouldn't have that spillover onto me.
Yeah.
And so I feel the same way. Whatever it is that I'm experiencing, especially if it's negative. Now, if it's positive, I want all that positive energy to be contagious and surrounding me, right? But if I know that this is something that's less than positive, then yeah, I need to understand how to regulate my emotions. So I've always had that sense of self, and I'm probably too sensitive. People tell me I take things, and really absorb things too much, I feel. But if you're not really quite sure to get that awareness, absolutely. Do a check. Go to counseling. It's okay to say, you know what, I need to pause right now and really make sure that I'm focusing on myself and my well being. I think everything is okay, but I just want to make sure, right? Because I want to make sure that my mental health, my emotional health is where it's supposed to be. Because the only way that I can be successful, the only way I can flourish, the only way I can shine is if I'm right within myself first.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Is there something that you wish you knew? You said a lot of great things. Is there something that you're saying that you wish you knew beforehand in your leadership journey? And if it is, what is that one thing?
I doubt myself a lot. I really do. And I am honestly blessed to have a great team that helps support me. And so I can never take credit for anything and everything. Well, I always say when things go right, it's them. When things go wrong, it's my job to fix, and I will take the blame for it. But
That's
I
how I know
do. I
you're a
so
great leader. This is how I know you're a great leader. Because you're like,
yes.
it's the greatness is them. It's not me.
Thank you. Thank you. And so it's been a blessing in the sense that I've been able to build some really, great relationships that whenever I need help is there,
Yeah.
right? I just have to ask. And so I do. I feel very fortunate about that. But with that being said, is that whole self doubt, I get this, wow, well, Dr. Anthony's team was able to do blah, 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 or my department. They typically refer to my department, right? And that part makes me nervous because I don't think people understand, right? They see the end result, but they don't necessarily see the arguments that happen behind closed doors, the work, the mistakes, and reinventing, processes and policies in order to help move it forward. So people get this perception that you're perfect and that you can handle anything and everything. And I say, no, it's like a rubber band. You can only pull the tension so much before it
Mhm.
would actually pop. Right.
Yeah.
So having that sense of self awareness, making sure that you have a great team to be there with you along the journey, it's, is huge. It's huge. I think those are the two that I will always recommend.
Now, I heard you say that, you've heard these where Dr. Anthony's team has been able to do this and that, and they sound kind of like accolades, right? Like, it's so great, all the things going, it's some hater type of stuff that comes along with that, right? From like
Yes.
other people watching, some resentment that may show up because they don't feel like there's not that they can't do certain things that you're doing or that your team is doing, is that they're not for some reason they're not able to make it happen at that time. They're not making it happen,
Hmm.
and so they don't have the confidence. So maybe some insecurities pop out. How do you deal with that? Because that is another space where like it's like another layer to the frustration, the overwhelm that happens at work. It's like I'm doing great, but now I got to deal with the resentment that shows up in different ways. During your workday or during your productivity times. How do you handle it?
If you asked me this question a week ago, you would get a different answer, right? I'm being honest,
I'm
right?
right on
Look,
time.
yeah, we're just going to be transparent. I'm going to be honest with you today because it's funny you say that. I do have some challenges and some haters, and they're just contentious just because they wake up. It's like when you wake up, you brush your teeth, you wash your face. I'm going to be contentious, right?
Mad
That's just
today.
who they are, adversarial. And so a week ago, it bothered me because I don't understand. Like, again, because I first, I'm very introspective. Have I done something to trigger this and things? And
Mhm.
no, like you said, they're just haters. They're just, that is who they are, and that's what their spirit is.
Yeah.
And so today I woke up. I'm just in a different mindset. I saw the communication of essentially insubordination just because.
Yeah.
It's an email. It's documented. My boss is aware of it.
Yeah.
I'm moving on, right? Because this isn't about me. This is everything dealing with them, and I can't fix that person.
Yeah.
So it's not until they're ready to do something different that something different will happen. But what you realize, and it took me a while to get to this because I do, when things happen, I first say, well, what did I do? How can I fix this? Let me try again. And then you realize it's nothing that you can do. This is just who they are as
Gotta let
individuals.
them.
Yeah, and you just let them. And so, what I am learning and what I will have to share with others is if you have haters, there's something about you that is shining ever so bright, and keep shining, and don't allow these people, negative people, the haters, the people who got whatever insecurities, to dim your light.
I
And
know
you
that's
just keep
right.
moving forward, right? Just keep
Yes,
moving
ma'am.
forward.
Sometimes I'm like, let me figure out how I can get me some more haters. Because if you got haters, that means you, like you said, you're doing something
You're
great.
doing something
And
right.
I think
Yes.
somebody said at some point, if you don't have any haters, you're doing something wrong, right?
Yep,
Because they're gonna
absolutely.
be people. They just exist this way. Like you said, they
Yeah.
brush their teeth and they just go about their day hating and resenting for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason. We don't know why. They just do. That's just who they are. And the best way to deal with them is to, like you said, let it go. Let
Yeah,
it
just
go.
let it
Do what
go.
you are supposed to do, what you know you need to do, and let it go. And just don't add that to the stack of the overwhelm, because it's gonna be some things that just they're gonna come to overwhelm you, like the grief, right? Those things are gonna bother you. That stuff is not just gonna roll off your back. But the things that you can try to get to roll off your back, let's do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Earlier you mentioned a couple of times about therapy. You're
Hmm.
a coach, so you believe in the power of coaching and advising and mentorship. Some people go to therapy and they feel like they spend a lot of time in therapy. I'm doing the talking. I've talked about my past. I've moved to this space and now I'm coaching. And I really just still feel like I can't move out of this space. What would you say to that person?
Well, I mean, they have to ask themselves why. Like, what is it about you, either mentally or emotionally or physically, that you're stuck,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that
right?
accountability. It sounds like
You
accountability.
have to be accountable, right? And see, I don't believe in in this victim mentality. Like, for example, if I'm unhappy with my job, and there's nothing that's going to change anything in my environment and things like that, and I can't change anything about my environment, I feel that it's my responsibility to go and pursue what will make me happy.
Yeah.
When we go to a restaurant and we order a dish that we just honestly just don't like, do we sit there and continue to eat it, or do we say, you know what, I'm not really a fan of this. Can I exchange this for something else, right? You have to be proactive with, making decisions that is going to be palatable and make you happy. So you have to take charge of that. And so if you're stuck, you really have to understand what's making you stuck in this place. Can't
Absolutely.
you not get over your insecurities? Where are you lacking confidence? You know, are you not dealing with your triggers, and how to deal with your triggers? What are you doing to make sure you're putting yourself in a positive, space? When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do, I'm playing gospel music,
I know that's right.
right? That's how I'm
All
starting
the
my
way to work.
day, right? And something mindless, probably on social media or something like that, just something mindless. But I'm starting it, and I got my AI, because I can't say the A word because she'll turn on.
Uh-huh.
Alexa.
Uh-huh.
But I do. I tell her to play the gospel music, and that's how I'm getting my day. And I'm singing and I'm praising and I'm praying as I'm getting started. What are you doing? How are you starting your day with positive affirmations? You're
Yep.
beautiful, you're talented, you're skilled, you're wonderful. You are exactly who you're meant to be. You're all these wonderful things. So, what are you pouring into you? So you have to take accountability and take charge of your happiness. So that's the first thing that come to mind, because I believe that for myself.
Yeah. Accountability is so key. And Dr. Anthony, you know what I'm realizing in
Are you
more?
really calling me Dr. Anthony Morgan?
Of
Just can call
course.
me Erica.
Of course. But anyway, you
I
have a
know, I know.
name.
I'm always teasing someone when they
I
do
know.
that.
I knew you was gonna do it. I knew it. People earn these titles. Did you hear what I read about you? You
Yes.
worked hard for that, and so I like to use it, especially in this
Well,
platform.
I appreciate that.
Anyway, so you know what I realized, that accountability is this word that keeps coming up for me, and I feel like what I'm noticing is that people have a really hard time of taking personal accountability. I'm not even talking about holding other people accountable, because
Yeah.
that is not gonna work, holding other people accountable, if you cannot hold yourself accountable. It's the same
Mm-hmm.
idea as your leadership being, whatever leadership style you have, being contagious. If you
Mm-hmm.
can't hold yourself accountable, I'm not sure how you can hold other people accountable. And I'm finding, as I work with leaders and other people, that they have the hardest time holding themselves accountable, so they make
Yeah.
excuses for all kinds of things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that also happens with their own personal development. So they're like, oh, the therapy isn't working, the mentorship isn't working, the coaching isn't working. And I'm usually like, well, maybe you aren't working. Maybe it's you. So, I know a lot of people come up with this phrase, protect your peace. I've heard that a lot, right? And I
Yeah.
think when you're dealing with overwhelm and some of the things that happen in the office, and bringing those things to your personal life and bringing your personal life to work, protect your peace becomes really popular. I read
Mm-hmm.
something the other day, though, that said, protecting your peace does not mean staying silent. So I want to know, what does protecting your peace mean to you?
Oh my gosh, all the above.
Uh-huh.
I recently, had a birthday in March.
Ooh, happy birthday.
Thank you,
Belated.
thank you. And I have my family and friends, laughing at me because I turned 50, and I said, now that I'm a woman of a certain age, right? That's my, and I put my hand like I got pearls on. Now that I'm a woman of a certain age, but I find that I'm a lot more vocal about things that I probably ever than I have previously in my life. So
Hmm.
if it's something that I may not been happy with, I probably just would have been silent and just ignore it, or just deal with it from a distance, right? Which probably meant not dealing with it at all, and just kind of disregarding the person or people altogether, or the situation. Now I'm like, no, this just doesn't make sense, and that doesn't work for me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm just, yeah, I have a very clear idea and definition that if it makes me feel uncomfortable, and it disturbs my mental health or my peace, then again, it's my responsibility to take ownership and figure out how to fix that. So And I understand even my threshold with people. Like, I had to leave work early today because I said I just can't adult anymore, and I need to put myself on timeout.
Do
I'm
what you need
serious.
to do for yourself.
I
Yes.
did. I had to. So let my admins know I'm done. I am done. The ringer is going off for a few seconds. I just need to sit. I need to eat. I need silence, and I need to work on me because I know that I'm not going to be my best. There's nothing else productive that's going to come out of me until I have an opportunity to reset. I have to take ownership of that. So, yes, be vocal. If it doesn't work, nobody said you have to be mean about it or snarky about it. You can just say it just doesn't work for me. I don't agree with that and I'm not comfortable with that. And if it's in anything, and this is dealing with your person, right? This is you. This is the most important, key, asset that you can invest in is yourself. And that's everything from mentally, emotionally, financially, physically, everything. All of that is fair game.
I
So,
love that.
yes, absolutely. Be vocal. Take accountability for your own happiness because you can't place that responsibility in anybody else's hands other than your own.
I love it. I love it. Well, actually, one of my last questions for you was going to be if you could give one piece of advice to a leader who's struggling emotionally, what would it be? It sounds like that's it.
Think so.
Be vocal, take responsibility for how you're feeling, and it is you that has to set those boundaries and say what you need to see happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And don't forget, this is so true. No is a whole complete sentence. It's a whole sentence. Like, no.
absolutely.
Or no, thank you.
I think sometimes as black women, especially as black women, we feel the need to explain. No, because, or I'm not doing that because. And like you said, no is a complete sentence. And again, that doesn't have to be rude. Doesn't have to be rude.
Nope, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. I know we could go on some more, especially since both of us are really passionate about this topic, but I don't
Yes.
want to keep the people too long.
Okay, thank you, Morgan. Thank you for having me on. This was such a pleasure. So,
Thank you.
yes, until next
Before you,
time.
yes, before you go, I want you to share how can people get in touch with you? How can they get coaching from you if they want to? And do you have any projects you want to share?
Well, yes. Thank you so much, Morgan. Let me talk about the projects. I have a retreat coming up on June 14th, and so it is for women leaders. And so it will take place June 14th at Bellion Springs. Beautiful day spa. You have access to several different sauna rooms, hydrotherapy pools, etc., etc. So come and spend the whole day. I mean, the whole day at Bellion Springs, only a few hours with me. Great opportunity to talk about leadership and being a woman leader, how to, replenish your cup and pour into you. And so what I want this opportunity to entail is for women's leaders to come together, network, find ways of supporting one another, as well as how I can support each and every one of the attendees as well. Because I'm looking, that's just my passion.
Yes.
How I can be reached, right? I have a website, innovative-leader.com. I am on LinkedIn. I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram. So definitely any of my social media, just feel free to reach out to me. And so I want to say, I think that's everything.
Yes, and what I'm going to do is put all of those things in the show description so you will
Yes.
be able to click on them. You'll also be able to click on that link to register for the retreat and we hope
Okay.
to see you there, okay?
Yes.
Let's get there
I love
and start
it.
that healing journey right there at the retreat. And to my listeners, healing just it isn't just about the past, it's about creating the leader you want to be today. And if you think you could use some guidance in this area or moving forward in your healing journey, join the People Power Project Circles coaching program. It's called Thrive Women's Leadership Coaching, where you will learn in a group to lead yourself through emotional storms and uncertain seasons, processing leadership wins, challenges, and adversity to take you to the next level. So just click the link in the show description or email me at contact@morgancareyconsultant.com to sign up today. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with your friend, a coworker, and even your manager. And don't forget to subscribe to the People Power Project podcast for more inspiring and actionable episodes. Follow me on TikTok at People Power Project and tag me with your thoughts, #People Power Project podcast. Until then, remember, people empowered workspaces are simply the best workplaces. I'll see you next week.